Okay, we've looked at the Lincoln assassination. We saw a man who was seen as really a mediocrite, somebody not terribly special, but a compromise candidate in 1860, lead the nation through its greatest trial, the Civil War. And Lincoln, because this is widely seen as one of America's most accomplished presidents because how he was able to manage it. When the war ended, it wasn't long after the end of the war that Lincoln didn't get to see what he had hoped would be the charity toward all and malice toward none. He was a victim of an assassination plot, as you folks read. I'm sure you probably knew that Lincoln was assassinated well before taking this class. Well, we could talk about the assassination and get the mechanics of it, but poems, like music, catch the emotion of this. They catch the anger or the sadness within the situation. The history is not just dry. It's not just people acting. It's like today. People are happy, people get sad, people get angry, they're worried. And music and poetry are good ways to capture that emotion. Now, you read and heard the poem, My Captain. I want to just take a brief minute or so to analyze it. So we read the first paragraph. O Captain, my Captain, our fearful trip is done. The ship has weathered every rack. The prize we sought is won. The port is near, the bells I hear, the people all exulting, while follow eyes the steady keel of the vessel grim and daring. You stop at that point. Who do you think the captain is? Of course, the captain is Abraham Lincoln. He's the captain of the ship, and the ship is the country, it's the nation. And he steered the nation through the storms of the Civil War. And as they come into port, the port kind of represents the fact of a united nation, that he had achieved what he had hoped to do, that the country was basically, the end was in sight, the war was over. But then the poem turns, but oh heart, 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 oh bleeding drops of red, where on the deck my captain lies, fallen, cold and dead. So this poem isn't angry so much as it's in shock. You could just see someone's jaw dropped. That the president had led the country through the Civil War, but the captain is dead and not able to steer the ship anymore. So as you move through the next stanzas of the poem, you kind of see what we're talking about. You can see like the ideas of parades and ribbons and wreaths and horns, celebration of the end of the war. But again, each stanza kind of turns that this idea, but the captain, dear father, the arm beneath your head, it is some dream that on the deck you've fallen cold and dead. You ever have such bad news that it seems like just a bad dream? You can see in the second stanza that as the parades are showing the end of the war, there's that shock that how could this be that the captain who took us to port through the storm is dead? And that really leads us into this last line. My captain does not hear, his lips are pale and still. My father does not feel my arm, he has no pulse nor will. Referring to Lincoln. The ship is anchored safe and sound, its voyage closed and done. From fearful trip the victor ship comes with the object won. So meaning that the captain is dead, but the ship is parked in safe harbor. That it's essentially that Lincoln had steered the ship peacefully into harbor. Exalt, O shore, and ring, O bells, but I with mournful tread walk the deck my captain lies, fallen cold and dead. So the idea is that the ship is there, but now it's up to the people who survived to guide the ship safely into the waters after the Civil War was over. This poem kind of captures a metaphor of the ship being the country and the stormy seas. A lot of people had experienced at that time being on the seas, and it wasn't like a Carnival cruise line. The seas were very unpredictable and very stormy, and many people died at sea. The idea that Lincoln was able to weather the ship of state through the storms of Civil War is celebrated here, but it's juxtaposed with the tragedy of that captain who was so steady in the time of the storm. When the ship was at peace, it was the person that died. Not how he died, but simply he died in the shock that was there, had that. So when we make sure you understand when you look at this poem, we're looking at a metaphor, and we're capturing a part of the nation's mood of a man who once was seen as a mediocre president would become part of this pantheon of gods, like Washington and Jefferson, who are memorialized in Washington, D.C., and whose cities across the country bear their name.